The rejected Omega fainted in the snow and woke to 3 wolves who claimed her heart. The wind howled across the frozen plains like a chorus of lost spirits. Snowflakes danced in the dim moonlight, covering the village of Ithralis in a white blanket so thick that even the tallest cottages seemed swallowed by winter. The world seemed frozen in time, a kingdom trapped between silence and shadow. And in that silence, Era walked alone, her breath rising in small, trembling clouds. Era had always been different. In the village she was called the healer, the gentle one, the girl who could mend scraped knees or soothe fevered foreheads with her hands in whispered words. But whispers also carried scorn, for in her veins ran the blood of the old line, the ones who were said to hold strange power, a prophecy that villagers feared. And in a world ruled by alphas and pack hierarchies, even the kindest heart could be rejected. Tonight the rejection had reached its peak. The alpha of her pack, a cruel and cunning man named Darian, had cast her out during the harshest storm of the season. His words still burned in her mind. "You are weak, Era. The prophecy does not belong to you. Leave before you bring shame upon all." Her heart ached, not just from the cold but from the sting of betrayal. She had trusted him, believed in him, and now as the snow whipped against her face, she stumbled across the frozen path leading to the edge of the forest. Every step became heavier, each breath more shallow. She did not notice the shadows moving just beyond the trees. They were silent at first, almost blending with the darkness. Only when a low, resonant growl shivered through the air did Era's eyes widen in fear. Wolves. 3 enormous wolves stepped from the tree line, their fur glinting under the pale moonlight. Their eyes were not ordinary. They glowed with a strange, almost otherworldly light. Amber, silver, and deep onyx. Era froze, her heart pounding. Wolves were dangerous, yet something in their gaze did not scream hunger or malice. Instead it felt deliberate, curious, expectant. The first wolf, with fur as black as night and eyes like molten gold, approached carefully. He lowered his head, sniffing the air around her. Another, silver and lit with a faint frost-like shimmer, circled her with a quiet grace, studying her every movement. The last, larger than either of the others, with fur tinged in shadowed gray, merely watched from the edge of the clearing, silent and still, yet undeniably present. Era's instincts screamed for her to run, but she was tired, bone-deep tired, and her legs felt as though they were filled with lead. The wind whipped around her, carrying snow into her eyes, and the world began to blur. And then, darkness. When she woke, the air smelled of pine and earth, of warmth and something wild. Her head throbbed, and her body felt wrapped in a thick, soft fur blanket. Confusion rippled through her. She was no longer in the open snow, no longer in the village she knew. Instead, she lay in a small clearing surrounded by ancient trees, their branches heavy with ice, their trunks thick and twisted as though grown from the bones of giants. The wolves were close, too close. They sat around her in a loose triangle, their gaze fixed upon her as if waiting for something. "Who are you?" Era whispered, her voice hoarse. No answer came in words. Instead, she felt it, a warmth that was not fire, a pull at her chest, as though 3 unseen hands were gently tugging at her heart. Her thoughts and emotions, usually her own, seemed to mingle with theirs. Confusion turned to fear, but fear soon wove itself with fascination. The black-furred wolf-cale padded closer, his golden eyes locking with hers. There was a weight in his gaze, a mixture of curiosity and caution. The silver wolf, Riven, circled once more, restless, his energy almost crackling in the frozen air. The gray wolf, Thorn, finally stepped closer, but not with the energy of the others. He moved like a shadow, silent and watchful, his dark eyes seeming to carry centuries of sorrow. Era wanted to recoil, to push herself away, but every movement felt slow, clumsy, as if the snow outside had left her body heavy and fragile. The wolf's presence was overpowering yet strangely comforting. It was a warmth that made her pulse quicken, a connection she could not name. "You saved me?" she asked, though she did not expect an answer. A low growl rumbled from Cale's throat, but it was not threatening. Riven's ears flicked, alert, and Thorn's gaze never wavered from her face. Then, as if by some silent agreement, the three wolves lay down around her, forming a protective circle. Days passed, or perhaps only hours. Time in the forest flowed differently. The snow outside never melted, yet within this hidden clearing, Ira began to feel a fragile sense of safety. Cale, ever watchful, would bring her food from the forest, placing it gently near her hands. Riven would playfully nudge her, urging her to rise and stretch, testing her limits. Thorn would sit quietly nearby, sometimes letting her rest against his fur, letting her draw comfort from his silent presence. And yet, with every interaction, Ira felt a growing tension in her chest. The wolves did not merely protect her, they claimed a part of her heart. Each one seemed to awaken a different emotion. Cale stirred the need for trust and understanding. Riven ignited a spark of defiance and passion. Thorn whispered of quiet sorrow and longing. She did not understand how or why, but she knew that she was not just being cared for. She was being drawn into something far larger than herself. Her dreams became strange and vivid. She saw visions of the pack she had left behind. Darien, standing atop a snow-covered hill, sneering at her as though her existence had no meaning. Shadows twisted around him, dark tendrils that whispered threats she could not comprehend. And then she saw the three wolves in her dreams, their eyes burning bright, their forms more magnificent and terrifying than she had ever imagined. They were not merely wolves. They were guardians, warriors, and perhaps more than mortal beings. But the dreams carried warning as well. One night she saw herself reaching for the wolves, only to have a cold shadow pull them away. A voice, low and echoing, hissed through the air. "Do not claim what is not yours. She is a key, and keys bring chains."
Era woke with a start, her heart pounding. Chains.
Keys. Her mind reeled with questions, but fear and awe mingled, keeping her silent. The wolves sensed it. Cale nudged her gently, sensing the tremor in her fingers. Riven circled faster, sensing tension and anger and worry. Thorn simply pressed closer, offering the calm that the others could not provide. Their presence was more than comfort, it was binding. It was not only her body that felt trapped, but her emotions too. She realized she had begun to care for them in a way that made her chest ache, and she knew, deep down, that the connection was mutual. The wolves had chosen her as much as she had come to need them, yet outside the sanctuary of the forest, danger still waited. One cold morning, as the first faint light of dawn touched the snow, Era saw it. A figure at the edge of the trees, barely visible through the drifting white. Darien, the Alpha. His eyes burned with hate and something darker, envy, fear, and recognition of her power. He had come for her. The wolves stiffened, their bodies tense and ready. Cale's growl was low and warning. Riven bared his teeth in a snarl, and Thorn's eyes glowed darker, almost as if he absorbed the very shadows around him. Era's heart raced. She realized with a cold clarity that her fate had only just begun. The forest had given her safety, but it could not hide her forever. And the wolves, the three who had claimed her heart, were ready to defend her, whatever the cost. As Darien stepped closer, his cloak dusted with snow, the tension snapped like frozen glass. Era rose to her feet, unsteady but determined. The wolves flanked her, their power radiating outward, a shield of strength and loyalty. And for the first time, Ira understood that she was no longer the rejected Omega lying in the snow. She was something else now, something wild, untamed, and connected to forces she could scarcely comprehend. Her heart thudded in her chest, not just with fear, but with a spark of hope, longing, and something else, something dangerous and beautiful. The snow whispered around them, the wind carried the scent of magic, and the forest seemed to hold its breath. And somewhere in the shadows a low, resonant growl rumbled, a warning that the night was far from over and that the story of the Omega and her 3 wolves was only just beginning. The forest seemed to breathe around Era, alive with frost and shadow. Every branch trembled under the weight of snow. Every leaf glinted as though dusted with silver. But there was no fear in this place, only the weight of expectation. The wolves, Kale, Riven, and Thorn, moved silently beside her as she stumbled along the hidden path. Their presence was overwhelming, a mixture of warmth, strength, and something wild that she could not name. Aira's mind was a storm. The sight of Darien at the forest's edge still haunted her, burning with a memory of his eyes, dark and unforgiving. She had always feared the Alpha's power, but now, after the wolves had rescued her, she felt something else, a flicker of defiance. She would no longer be the helpless Omega who collapsed in the snow. She would rise, even if she did not yet understand how. Kale led the way, his golden eyes fixed on the path ahead. He was quiet, measured, and commanding, as if he bore the weight of the forest itself. Riven bounded ahead, restless and impatient, his silver fur glinting like frost under the morning light. Thorn stayed closest to Era, his dark eyes softening whenever she faltered. "You must learn," Kale said, his voice deep and steady, though not a single word left his lips. It came to her in thoughts, clear and direct, like a song in her mind. "The world beyond the forest is dangerous. You are not merely a healer. You are something more." Ira swallowed, shivering despite the layers of warmth around her. "Something more?" she whispered. "Yes," Kyle answered. "Your blood carries power that has been feared for centuries. The prophecy you resemble, it is not meant to harm, but to awaken. If you learn to control it, you can change what is coming. If not, you will be destroyed." Riven laughed softly, a sound like ice cracking underfoot. "She's always been underestimated," he said, a spark of amusement and challenge in his thoughts. "The world doesn't know her yet." "But I do." Thorn's voice was quieter, almost a whisper. "And so do I." "But power is not just strength. It is a test of heart. You must be careful, Aira. Not all who claim you will protect you. Some will tempt you, twist you. Some will demand more than you can give." The words sank into her like stones. She glanced at the 3 wolves, feeling their eyes on her, sensing the depth of their emotions. Each one carried a piece of the truth she could not yet grasp. Kale, the protector; Riven, the fire; Thorn, the sorrow. Together, they were formidable. Alone, they were incomplete. Days passed in a rhythm that felt both long and short. The wolves trained her in the forest's hidden ways. Kale taught her to sense danger, to feel the life in the trees and the wind, to read the currents of energy that moved through the world like unseen rivers. Riven pushed her to act, to move, to embrace the strength that had always lain dormant in her muscles and mind. Thorn guided her in silence, teaching her patience, introspection, and the power of observation. Era discovered abilities she had never imagined. She could feel the heartbeat of the forest, the pulse of the wolves beside her, the shifting energy of the wind. She could mend small injuries with a touch, and sometimes, if she concentrated, she could even glimpse moments from the past, faint shadows of memories that were not her own. But power was not easily controlled. The first time she tried to call upon it fully, the forest reacted violently. Snowstorms swirled around her in a frenzy, the trees bending as though alive. Riven barked and leapt, trying to guide her focus, while Kale and Thorn moved to shield her from the chaos she had unwittingly unleashed. Ira sank to her knees, exhausted and trembling. Her hand shook with the effort, and tears stung her eyes. "I can't," she whispered. "I don't know how. You can," Kyle said, his golden gaze steady and unwavering. "But you must trust yourself and us." Riven circled her once, silver fur flashing. "Fear is natural," he said, a playful note in his thought. "But hesitation will kill you. You must act with your heart, not just your head." Thorn's presence pressed against her side, grounding her. Do not fight yourself, he murmured. The forest, the wolves, the power, they are not your enemies. But those who would use you, they are. Even as they spoke, Era felt a tension in her heart she had never known. She wanted to trust them completely, yet a part of her feared the intensity of her own feelings. Kao's patience made her feel safe, yet also bound to him. Riven's fire drew desire and courage from her, yet sometimes it frightened her with its rawness. Thorn's quiet sorrow mirrored her own, making her long to comfort him even as she worried she could not. One evening, after a day of particularly grueling training, Irea sat on a fallen log, the snow crunching beneath her boots. The wolves lay around her, each curled in a different posture. Kao watched the horizon, eyes sharp even in relaxation. Riven playfully nudged a branch, tossing snow into the air. Thorn rested his head on her lap, eyes closed, breathing steady and deep. "Why me?" Ira asked aloud. "Why did you save me? Why claim my heart when I'm so broken?" Kale's gaze softened, though his words came in her mind with the same gravity. "Because you are not broken. You are unclaimed, and that makes you powerful. Many fear you because they see what you could become. We see what you are and what you might be. That is why we are here." Riven leaned closer, the warmth of his body pressing against hers. "And because," he said, voice teasing but gentle, "you are alive, stubborn, and fascinating. You do not yet know your strength, but it calls to us." Thorn opened his eyes slowly, their darkness deepening in the fading light. "We claim you not out of desire alone," he said softly, "but because you are linked to the fate of the forest, the wolves, and perhaps the entire kingdom. Your heart, your choices, will shape more than you imagine." Ira shivered. Her chest ached with longing, fear, and a strange exhilaration she could not name. She wanted to reach for them, to trust them completely. Yet the shadows of the past, the betrayal, the rejection, the loneliness, held her back. Her training intensified over the following weeks. She learned to move with the wolves, to channel energy into her hands, to sense danger in the subtle shifts of snow and wind. She practiced healing but also control over her emotions, realizing that her power grew stronger when her mind and heart were balanced. One morning, Kale led her to a frozen stream, the ice glittering like shattered glass. "Today you will learn to call upon what is inside you," he said. "You must trust yourself more than anyone else. This is not about saving others, at least, not yet. This is about saving you." Era knelt by the stream, hands hovering over the frozen surface. The air around her hummed with tension. She closed her eyes, drawing in a deep breath, focusing on the warmth within her chest. Slowly the ice beneath her fingers began to crack and shimmer, spreading like veins of light through the frozen water. Riven let out a low whistle, impressed.
"Good. You feel it," he said.
"Don't stop. Let it flow through you." Thorn's hand brushed hers, grounding her. "Do not fear the power. Fear makes it jagged. Accept it, guide it, and it will follow you." Era opened her eyes, seeing the ice glow brighter, the snow around her lifting slightly as if drawn to her energy. The forest seemed to lean closer, the trees whispering, the wind holding its breath. And for a brief, shining moment she felt alive in a way she never had before. Not helpless, not rejected, but something more. But power always attracts attention. From the edge of the clearing a shadow flickered, a movement too swift, too deliberate to be natural. Ira's heart skipped. She could feel it before she saw it. The Alpha Pack, sent by Darien, had discovered her sanctuary. Their presence was immediate, violent, and filled with intent. Kale growled low, muscles tensing. Riven's fur bristled, eyes flashing like molten silver. Thorn pressed closer to Ira, protective and unyielding. "They come for you," Kyle said, his voice steady but urgent, "and they will not stop until they have taken you or destroyed everything in their path." Ira's hand shook, yet she felt a fire ignite within her. The training, the nights of fear and doubt, the guidance of the wolves, all of it had led to this moment. She would not run. She could not run. As the first alpha steps emerged from the trees, Era rose, the snow swirling around her in a halo of light. She could feel the energy thrumming in her veins, the strength of the wolves beside her, and something inside herself that had always waited. This was no longer the same girl who had collapsed in the snow. This was Era, healer, Omega, and something far more. The Alpha Pack halted at the clearing's edge, their eyes narrowing. Darian stepped forward, his voice carrying across the snow, sharp and commanding. "Give her to me," he said, "and none of you will be harmed." Kale's growl deepened. Riven's silver fur bristled. Thorn's dark eyes burned like coals. Era took a step forward, hands raised, snow swirling at her fingertips. Her heart pounded, not with fear, but with determination. And then, all at once, the forest seemed to roar in anticipation. The forest had grown darker over the past days. Snow still blanketed the ground, but the light that once glimmered on the icy branches now seemed muted, filtered through a veil of shadow. Era walked slowly along the frozen path, flanked by Kale, Riven, and Thorn. Each step felt heavier than the last, as though the forest itself pressed upon her shoulders, reminding her that her choices carried weight beyond her understanding. She had mastered small acts of her power, calling upon the energy that flowed through her and the forest. She could sense danger, heal minor wounds, and even glimpse fleeting images of the past. But mastery had not brought peace. Instead, her heart was a tangle of emotions pulled in 3 directions at once. Kale's steady presence was a calm anchor. His golden eyes never left her, always observing, always protective. Era found herself trusting him in ways she had never trusted anyone. Yet she feared that trust carried a weight she might not be able to bear. Riven, ever restless, pushed her to test her limits. His silver fur shimmered in the pale sunlight, filtering through the branches. With him, she felt alive, exhilarated, and afraid all at once. His teasing, his fire, challenged her to face not only the forest but her own hidden strength. Thorn remained the quietest, yet perhaps the most compelling. His dark eyes, shadowed and deep, mirrored pain and loss she did not yet fully understand. When she rested against him, she felt both sorrow and solace, as though he carried pieces of the world's grief in his soul. They were all different, yet all had claimed her heart. And each connection left her trembling, uncertain, and alive. The hidden grove Kale led her to a grove that had not been touched by snow, its ground warm and soft despite the frozen forest around it. Ancient trees arched overhead, their trunks carved with old runes. The air was thick with energy, buzzing like a faint heartbeat. "This place," Kale said in her mind, "is sacred. Here, the forest itself will reveal truths if you are ready." Era knelt on the warm moss, feeling the pulse beneath her fingers. The wolves circled her slowly, their presence close, almost intimate. She could feel the intertwining of their lives and hers, the connection growing stronger every day. "Focus," Kale instructed. "You have the power to see, but you must open your mind fully. Let the forest guide you, not fear it."
Era closed her eyes and let the energy flow through her.
Shadows and light danced behind her eyelids, revealing fragments of the past. She saw glimpses of the wolves' lives before she had found them. Kale had once been a guardian of a great kingdom, tasked with protecting its people. He had fought with honor, but suffered betrayal at the hands of those he trusted most. His power had been bound by a curse, leaving him restless and wary. Riven had been a warrior of fire and rebellion. He had defied leaders and toppled tyrants, yet each victory had come at a cost. Pain followed him like a shadow, and he had learned to mask it with bravado and defiance. Thorn carried guilt heavier than either of the others. Once, he had failed to protect someone he loved deeply, and the sorrow of that loss had lingered in his soul, entwined with a curse that made him silent, watchful, and haunted. Era's chest ached as the images flowed into her mind. She had come to the wolves for safety, but now she understood that they too had scars, burdens that mirrored her own. They had claimed her heart not merely for desire, but because they recognized her strength, her spirit, and the depth of her courage. And now, she knew, They were connected not only by loyalty, but by fate. The first test. Suddenly, the forest shifted. The shadows deepened, and the runes on the ancient trees began to glow faintly. Era felt a presence, something foreign and threatening, approaching the grove. "They know you are here," Kale warned, "and they will test you." Era braced herself, heart racing. From the shadows stepped a creature cloaked in darkness, its form shifting and hazy, almost impossible to define. Its eyes glowed with a cold, unnatural light. "You have power," it hissed, voice like a winter wind cutting through stone. "But you are not ready. Give yourself to me, or all you love will fall." Era's pulse thundered. She felt the wolves tense around her. Kale growled low, muscles coiled. Riven's fur bristled, silver teeth flashing. Thorn's shadowed eyes glowed as he moved closer to her side. But Era did not flinch. She had learned to feel the energy of the forest, to channel it. She placed her hands on the ground, drawing strength from the moss, the trees, and the wolves. A wave of warmth and light surged through her, washing over the dark creature. The figure recoiled, hissing, shadows cracking like splintering ice. Era's power pulsed stronger, fueled by fear, courage, and the unspoken bonds between her and the wolves. She could feel the forest responding to her, bending and flowing like water around a stone. "You cannot control me," she said aloud, voice firm and steady. "I am not afraid." For a moment the dark entity hesitated, its shape wavering. Then it surged forward, faster than her eyes could follow, striking with cold and malice. Era reacted instinctively, raising her hands, and a shield of shimmering energy erupted, colliding with the shadow in a storm of light and frost. Kale, Riven, and Thorn moved in unison, attacking not with claws alone but with energy and presence, each lending their power to hers. The battle was brief but fierce, the forest alive with the clash of light and darkness. And then, with a final surge of determination, Era expelled the creature, which dissipated into a swirl of shadows, leaving only silence behind. Era sank to her knees, exhausted. Her chest heaved, and her hands trembled. The wolves circled her, close now, protective and silent. "You were magnificent," Kale said, pride and something deeper in his thoughts. "But you must learn more. There will be greater trials." Riven nuzzled her shoulder playfully, trying to lighten the tension. Yes, don't faint now. You have more in you than you realize, and I am not finished teasing you yet." Thorn's voice was quieter, softer. "You faced your fear, Era. But there will be more, and the hardest part will be within your own heart." Era leaned against him, drawing strength from his warmth. Her heart beat fast, tangled with the feeling she could not name. She longed to trust fully, to surrender completely, but a part of her feared the consequences. She could not forget the rejection she had suffered, nor the danger still waiting outside the forest. The wolves' confession that night. Under a sky heavy with stars, the three wolves gathered around a fire Era had learned to light herself. Their eyes glowed in the flickering light, and the forest seemed to hum in quiet anticipation. Kale was first. "Era," he said softly, "you must know that what you feel for us is real, and what we feel for you is also real. But it is complicated. Our hearts are bound to yours, and yours to us. This bond will test you in ways you cannot yet imagine." Era swallowed. I don't understand it. How can all of you? Her voice trailed off, uncertainty and awe mingling. Riven stepped closer, his silver fur glinting in the firelight. "You do not have to understand it," he said. "You only need to feel it. But beware. Love is not simple. Desire is not simple. You will be tempted, tested, and torn. But you are strong enough to endure it." Thorn's dark eyes rested on her, unwavering. "You will be forced to make choices, Era. Choices that could save or break lives. And in the end, the greatest challenge may not be the world outside, but the desires, fears, and doubts within you." Era's chest ached. She had never felt so seen, so understood, and yet so frightened. The wolves had claimed her heart, and in turn she had begun to claim theirs. But the weight of the prophecy of the forest and of her own awakening power pressed down on her, reminding her that the world beyond this grove was far from safe. A new threat days later, while Era practiced controlling her abilities. A sudden shiver ran through the forest. The trees groaned, the snow shifted unnaturally, and the shadows deepened. Era's heart tightened. "You feel it too," Kale said. "The Alpha Pack is not idle. They are planning something." Riven's silver fur bristled. "They will come for you again, and this time they will not hesitate." Thorn pressed close, dark eyes meeting hers. "And there is something else," he murmured. "Something beyond the pack. A force older, colder, and more cunning. It waits, watching, testing you. You will face it soon." Era felt the chill of fear mixed with resolve. She had grown stronger, braver, and more aware of her power. But the trials were far from over. The forest, the wolves, and her own heart had prepared her, but the outside world was unforgiving, and the shadows would not wait. The forest was still, yet the air was electric. Snow swirled around Era, carried on winds that seemed alive, whispering secrets she could almost understand. The trees loomed overhead like silent sentinels, their branches heavy with frost. The sacred grove where she had learned the first truths of her power now felt charged with anticipation, as though the land itself had been waiting for this moment. Era stood at the center, flanked by Kael, Riven, and Thorn. Each wolf's presence was unmistakable. Kael steady and commanding, Riven restless and fiery, Thorn shadowed and watchful. Their eyes held more than loyalty now. They carried longing, fear, and fierce protectiveness. Era felt the pulse of their hearts intertwined with her own. The connection had grown into something undeniable, something sacred. Beyond the forest, the Alpha Pack stirred. Darien had gathered forces, shadows of men and beasts, driven by greed, fear, and obsession. And yet there was another presence, older, colder, more cunning. A dark force whose eyes had haunted her dreams. It had waited in the periphery, testing her courage, gauging the strength of the bond between her and the wolves. Era drew a deep breath. The power within her pulsed like molten light, waiting to be commanded. She had trained, endured, and grown. She knew the trials had prepared her for this. The battle that would decide not only her fate, but the fate of the forest, the wolves, and perhaps the kingdom beyond. The approach of danger, the first to appear, was Darien, stepping into the clearing with a mixture of fury and disbelief. His cloak was dusted with snow, and his eyes burned with determination. "Era!" he called, voice sharp. "You do not belong here! Return, or your friends will fall, and so will you." Kael growled low, muscles coiled. "You threaten what is ours," he said in her mind, each word resonating like a drumbeat through her chest. "We will not let harm come to her." Riven's silver fur flashed as he leapt forward, agile and fierce. "Empty threats," he whispered to her, playful but warning. "You are stronger than he imagines." Thorn's dark gaze held her, quiet and firm. "Focus, Era. Not on fear, not on anger, but on what must be done." Era's pulse raced. She could feel Darien's malice, the Alpha Pack's ambition, and the lurking shadow beyond the trees. Yet beneath it all was a strange calm, the realization that she was no longer alone, and she was no longer powerless. "Then let them come," she said aloud, voice steady, carrying the weight of her determination. "I will not run. I will not fear. Not anymore." The snow swirled violently, responding to the surge of energy from her heart and her connection with the wolves. The forest seemed to lean closer, shadows twisting and light bending as if the land itself had taken sides. The first clash. The Alpha Pack attacked in waves, moving with speed and precision, but unprepared for the power they faced. Kael moved like a shadowed storm, striking with precision and strength. Riven darted like fire, swift and unpredictable, keeping enemies off balance. Thorn moved like a silent blade, striking from the edges, shadows bending with him. Era focused, drawing energy from the wolves in the forest. With a sweep of her hands, the snow around her lifted, forming walls of sparkling frost that slowed their advance. She could feel the magic thrumming through her, responding to her heartbeat, her thoughts, her will.
Darian snarled, frustrated. It is not enough.
She cannot fight against me. But Era did not falter. Her power was more than physical. It was the culmination of her courage, her grief, her longing, and the unbreakable bonds she had formed. She reached out, channeling energy through the wolves and herself. A wave of light surged forward, striking the Alpha Pack with overwhelming force, scattering them into the snow like leaves in a storm. Yet Darian remained stubborn, furious, and dangerous. His shadowed magic clashed with hers, a storm of light and darkness that rattled the trees and shook the ground. Era faltered briefly, fear flashing through her mind, but Kale nudged her, grounding her. Riven's playful smirk reminded her of her strength. Thorn pressed close, silent encouragement anchoring her resolve. She could not let him win, not for herself, not for the wolves, not for the forest. Facing the dark force as Darian retreated, a shadow detached itself from the trees. Taller, darker, and more menacing than anything Era had encountered before, it moved like liquid night. Its eyes glowed with cold intelligence, and its presence sent a shiver through the forest. "I am older than kingdoms," it hissed, voice echoing like ice against stone. "You cannot claim power that is not yours." Era's heart pounded. She could feel the fear, the temptation to flee, to surrender, but she remembered the wolves, the sacred forest, and the strength that had grown inside her. "You are wrong," she said, lifting her hands. "This power is mine. I claim it. I claim my heart, my strength, and my choice." The shadow lunged, a wave of darkness and malice. But Era was ready. Energy surged through her, flowing through the wolves and herself, forming a shield of shimmering light. She struck out not with anger, but with purpose, guiding the force toward the shadow. The battle was intense, a dance of light and dark, of fear and courage. Era called upon every lesson Kale had taught, every spark of fire Riven had ignited, every quiet insight Thorn had shared. Slowly, methodically, the shadow began to retreat, unraveling against the strength of her will. And then, with a final surge, it dissipated, leaving the forest still and quiet, the air shimmering with the remnants of magic. Redemption and choice Era sank to her knees, exhausted. The wolves circled her, close and protective. Kale nudged her shoulder gently, eyes soft with pride. Riven twined around her, playful but tender. Thorn pressed his forehead against hers, silent and steady. "You did it," Kale said softly. "You faced the darkness, and you prevailed. But the true victory is what you choose next." Era looked at the three wolves, her heart swelling with emotion. She had come to the forest broken and afraid, rejected and alone. But now she understood the depth of her own courage, the power she carried, and the bonds that could not be broken. I love all of you," she whispered. "But I cannot be selfish. I must choose what is right for us, for the forest, and for myself." Riven's silver eyes softened, but a spark of mischief remained. "We do not ask for selfishness," he said. "We ask only for honesty. Your heart is yours to claim, and ours to share, if you will it." Thorn pressed closer, shadowed eyes steady. "And know this, Era. Whatever you decide, we will support you. Even if the path is difficult, even if it tests us all, our bond is not so easily broken." Kale's golden gaze met hers, warm and steady. "You have proven yourself. Your choices are your own, and we will honor them. But know this, we are yours, as you are ours. Trust your heart." Era closed her eyes, feeling the pulse of the forest, the warmth of the wolves, and the strength that had grown inside her. She realized that love was not simple, nor was power. But trust, courage, and truth could forge something unbreakable. With a deep breath, she opened her eyes. "Then, I choose." all of us. Together. Not because it is easy, but because it is right.
Because I have learned that love and strength are not separate. They are the same, and I will claim them both. The wolves nuzzled her, a mixture of joy and relief passing through them.
Kale pressed close, steady and protective. Riven danced around her in a silver blur, and Thorn rested his head against her heart, grounding her. For the first time since she had fallen in the snow, Era felt whole. Not perfect, not without scars, but alive, powerful and loved. A new dawn. The sun rose slowly over the forest, its rays catching the snow and casting 1,000 colors across the clearing. Era stood with the wolves at her side, watching the light break through the branches. The forest was quiet, peaceful, yet vibrant with energy, a living testament to the power they had shared and the battles they had overcome. "The darkness is not gone," Kale said. "It waits, as it always does, but you have proven yourself. You have faced it and survived. That is more than many can say." Riven barked softly, playful. "And besides, we have each other now. That counts for a lot." Thorn's eyes softened, shadowed and deep. "We will be ready, together." Era smiled, feeling the warmth of the wolves, the pulse of the forest, and the strength within herself. She had been rejected, abandoned, and tested beyond measure. But now she had found her place, her power, and her heart. The snow shimmered like diamonds, and the wind whispered across the trees, carrying a message she understood without words. The trials were never truly over, but they were hers to face, and with the 3 wolves who had claimed her heart, she would never face them alone. Era lifted her head to the rising sun, letting the light wash over her. A new chapter had begun, one of love, courage, and endless possibility.